Triangle Strategy is a game I've been looking forward to ever since it was first announced and I played its first demo. And now, having played both the original demo and the new prologue demo, which contains the entirety of chapters 1 through 3 of the full game, I can safely say that I am very excited for the official release. The battle system alone was enough to get me hyped, as the first demo showed that Triangle Strategy was looking to incorporate elements of CRPGs into the traditional tactical RPG genre. By using a mage who specializes in frost, for example, you could set up an ice wall that would prevent ground-based enemies from advancing, allowing you to bombard them with your own magic spells and long-ranged attacks. In other situations, if there were puddles of water on the ground and enemies happened to be standing in them, you could also use a single target lightning damage attack on one of those enemies and have it chain its damage to all the enemies standing in the puddles. You could even create your own puddles to create this effect if needed by freezing the ground with ice magic and then melting it with fire magic. In addition to these interactions, Triangle Strategy also has a lot of the systems found in other tactical RPGs such as Final Fantasy Tactics, Tactics Ogre, and Fire Emblem. Battles in Triangle Strategy take place on a grid that overlays the battlefield environment, with turns between your characters and enemies alike being taken based on their speed stat. And when it's one of your character's turns, you can move them around the battlefield based on their movement stat. The squares that light up when selecting to move a character show how far and where that character can move, with blue being save tiles and red being tiles that will put the character in range of an enemy. It is even possible to jump up to higher ground provided you have a pathway there, or the character you're moving has the requisite jump stat to do so. This ability to get elevation can present an advantage in battle, provided your character has an attack with the necessary range to hit an enemy from an elevated area, as attacking an enemy while at a higher elevation than them will allow you to do more damage. For melee characters who don't have the option to attack at range, your only choice is to move them next to an enemy in order to deal damage. When doing so, you can position them behind the enemy, which has the benefit of guaranteeing a critical strike. Alternatively, if you've already positioned one of your party members beside an enemy, you can flank them on the opposite side, causing the other party member to do a follow-up attack. All of this does apply to enemies as well though, so unit positioning is something to always keep in mind. Attacks in Triangle Strategy are, for the most part, your pretty standard tactical RPG affair. You have single target attacks that hit one square, line-based attacks that can hit enemies in a line of squares, ranged attacks that can't hit enemies right next to the character but have the benefit of being able to hit enemies far away, attacks that can apply debuffs to enemies such as poison or blind, and more. Then there are the magic spells. These are the ones that create really interesting interactions, like chaining a normal single target lightning attack to multiple enemies, or setting up a wall of ice to stop melee units. Additionally, magic can also provide various buffs and healing to your party, such as the Flame Shield ability, which increases the target's fire resistance for 2 turns, but also allows that character to counter fire-based attacks. This tried and true tactical RPG formula, combined with the addition of being able to affect and interact with the environment to tackle battles, promises to provide an interesting and very deep combat system. And if that's all Triangle Strategy was adding to the formula, it would have been enough to get me hyped. But the game presented another system that made things even more interesting. That system being the Scales of Conviction. Essentially, it's a decision-making system that will alter the path the player takes through the game. But it's not your usual RPG affair of being presented with a choice and then having the player make the decision on which option to choose. Instead, Triangle Strategy spices things up by having the party members make the choice for the player. Basically, what happens is the player will be presented with decisions that will alter their path through the game, and to decide which choice to make, you will need to use the Scales of Conviction, a voting system in which each party member other than the main character will cast their vote on which choice they think is right. However, the choice made is not entirely left up to chance, as before each decision, you can talk to each party member to hear their thoughts and opinions on the decision at hand. After listening to a given character's thoughts and opinions, you will then be given dialogue options to determine how your main character will respond. And it is with these dialogue options that you can try and persuade a party member to change their opinion should their opinion not align with what you as the player want to do. The really interesting thing about this is that you won't actually know if your persuasion was successful until after each character casts their vote and the results have been tallied. This creates a situation in which a player's skill in diplomacy can help them achieve the outcome they desire, rather than a simple A or B decision. But not to worry, as there are things you can do as the player to give yourself an edge when trying to persuade party members to your side. You see, Triangle Strategy consists of 3 different types of scenarios with which the game progresses. There are the story scenarios, which include main story and side story scenes that serve not only to progress the plot of the game, but also flesh out the world and its characters. Then there are of course battle scenarios, in which the game's combat comes into play. And then there are the exploration scenarios, which provide the player a chance to explore an area, talk to its inhabitants, find treasure, and more. It's during these exploration scenarios that you can obtain the necessary information to give yourself an edge during these scales of conviction decision-making moments. As you talk to people during these exploration scenarios, you will of course be learning a plethora of information about those you are talking to, their motivations, the world, and the different people and factions who hold power. And some of this information that you can potentially find out can then be used when trying to persuade your party members to make a decision that aligns with what you as the player want to do. Essentially, by going out of your way to learn about the world and its inhabitants, the main character also gains that information and can then use it to his advantage. This is represented by dialogue options becoming unlocked during the skills of conviction sections that would have otherwise not been selectable based on the information that you've obtained. It's honestly a really neat and intriguing system. Finally, there's the Encampment system, which can be accessed at any time between story scenarios or during exploration scenarios. From your encampment, you can access a number of different facilities such as the Provisioner, a vendor who sells restorative items, accessories, and resources, and a smithy who will then use those resources to upgrade your character's equipment. You can also find the Sundry Shop, a special vendor that will sell Quietus cards for kudos among other things. Kudos are a special type of currency that is acquired for taking certain actions in battle, such as attacking from behind, hitting an enemy weakness, etc. The Quietus cards this vendor sells are powerful effects that can be used once per battle. One Quietus card, for example, lets you guarantee that a party member of your choosing will act next in battle, while another makes it so that your next attack is a guaranteed critical hit. The Sundry Shop is also the place to go if you want to upgrade the class of any of your characters, provided they've met the necessary requirements. As with other tactical RPGs, upgrading a character's class comes with many benefits such as increased stats and access to new skills and abilities. The final facility, at least the final one that you gain access to within the first 3 chapters, is the Tavern. This is where you go if you want to do a little grinding for levels, money, and resources, via mock battles offered by the Tavern's barkeep. Now I'm sure there are a lot of things I left out of this brief preview of Triangle Strategy, so if you are even at least a little bit interested, I do highly recommend downloading the most recent demo and checking it out for yourself, as you're in for a real treat. But that's it. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Also, be sure to follow me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/RoslinGaming, where you can find me streaming almost every day. Needless to say, I will definitely be streaming my playthrough of Triangle Strategy as soon as the full game releases. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always hop in my Discord, linked in the video description below, where myself or any other of our community members will be happy to help. Until next time, take care.